2025 is a massive year for Formula One, with huge changes coming to the sport. A crazy number of drivers are moving teams, and there are a total of 5 rookies gracing the grid, ready to dive headfirst into the furious competition of Formula One. While those 5 rookies try to integrate themselves into their teams, the factories will have all their attention fully focused on the future. The new regulations for 2026 are on the way, and as the FIA ban is lifted on development, the hard work for the teams begins. Today, I'll check out why this year could feature some of the toughest decisions the F1 teams have ever had to face. So, don't go anywhere. First off, Happy New Year to everyone from the team here at F1 Reverse. We all hope you have a fantastic 2025 filled with incredible Formula One racing. And what a year it might be, eh? Trying to pick a favourite from Ferrari, McLaren and Red Bull for the Constructors' Championship is almost impossible, and picking a driver for the individual title is even harder. Though I did give it a go in the very boldly titled 100% correct and accurate 2025 F1 predictions video. Yes, the title was a little tongue-in-cheek, but I had a lot of fun going through the comments, and a lot of you clearly have very different opinions to me. Something that came up a lot while I was trying to get my opinions onto paper to record that video was the fact that 2026 is next year, and the teams need to bear that in mind. Why exactly? Well, the 10 F1 teams are now permitted to start designing their 2026 cars for the technical regulations overhaul. They'd previously been prohibited from carrying out wind tunnel or aerodynamic testing toward the new rules, which are to make the cars smaller and feature active aero as part of the raft of changes to the chassis designs. The ban had been put into place after the teams agreed to delay official work until January 1st, 2025, although this didn't stop unofficial sketches and ideas from being discussed. While the FIA has unlimited access to the team's factories to help them enforce their rules, they can't stop Adrian Newey discussing the nuances of the 2 versus 3 rear wing elements over the water cooler in the Aston Martin factory. The scale of the rule changes is absolutely huge. The engines are being overhauled with a larger electrical component, the fuel is going to be 100% synthetic, meaning it's made in a lab rather than extracted from the earth. The cars will be smaller and lighter. The tyres are going to be thinner. The downforce and drag of the cars is getting slashed with massive changes to the aerodynamic profile of the cars. The ground effect floor is staying but being heavily limited, and the cars will have 2 separate aerodynamic settings. The system, involving movable front and rear wings, will result in greater cornering speeds with standard Z mode deployed. On straights, drivers will be able to switch to X mode, a low drag configuration designed to maximize straight line speed. Of course, the aim of the changes is always to give safer racing, more exciting racing, and to stay at the forefront of technological development in the automotive industry. Though don't expect your new Ford Focus to have movable aerodynamic wings for cornering speeds and straight line efficiency anytime soon. The exact breakdown of the changes is massive, and it's a lot for the teams to digest. To make things harder, the budget cap, coupled with the sliding scale of aerodynamic testing limitations, means that there are going to be some tough decisions to make for the teams this year. For the top-level engineers and decision-makers on the teams, it's pretty easy to argue that this could be the most challenging season in the sport's history. Let me explain why, and then let me know what you think in the comments. From today, the teams are going to be faced with a dilemma. Do they stick and invest time, money, and testing allowance into their 2025 car to try and maximize their returns this season, knowing that none of the work they do on the 2025 car will carry over to 2026? Or do they twist and focus on 2026, hoping that their 2025 car does a good enough job as it is? For some teams, that decision might be relatively easy, but for others, they almost can't win. As Ferrari boss Fred Vasseur said, "We're not all in the same situation. I think if you're Alpine or Aston Martin, then you have probably more temptation to go for the new regulations. Also, you have more wind tunnel time, so it means that probably you can go in this direction. If you're one team of the top 4 today, you carry over the car, and you know that you'll be into the fight for next year, so it's difficult to give up a championship. Plus, if you know that you didn't do the best, it is harsh even for everybody in the team." I'll dive into what individual teams might decide on doing in a second, but if you're enjoying the video, then please give it a like, and if you want to catch all the news and a little opinion as we head into the 2025 season, then make sure to subscribe to F1 Reverse. Thanks a lot. So for those at the back of the grid, the decision is relatively easy. As I said in my 2025 predictions video, Sauber will invest almost nothing into this season. Audi, who already own the team but have not officially taken over yet, will want as much time and money spent on 2026 as possible. Their name will actually feature on the car then, and they'll want that car to be as competitive as possible. Loads of people highlighted in the comments section of my prediction video that James Vowles has already said that his team are fully focused on 2026, so expect them to be well off the pace as well. Alpine, Haas and Vicar will probably also go the same way, focusing most of their attention on next year. The advantage of doing that for these less competitive teams is that they can find huge gains in the new regulations and start 2026 very competitive. Any one of the 10 teams could find something that everyone else has missed and suddenly dominate the field while everyone else plays catch-up. For the less competitive teams, it really is an opportunity to achieve things that are impossible under the current regulations, especially now the budget cap and testing limits are in place. Haas don't have to worry about Mercedes having 10 times the budget they do. They're all on the same level playing field now, and all it takes is for one inventive engineer from any team to find something in the regulations that gives them an early advantage, and they can develop that into a previously unthinkable season. Of course, that one inventive engineer might discover the next zero pod and destroy their team's development for years to come, so perhaps Mercedes should just focus on 2025 and give their designers less of a chance to try and be clever in 2026. As Fred Vasseur said, Aston Martin can be thrown into that same pot. Adrian Newey actually starts work at the team this year, and his remit will be fully focused on 2026, not trying to chase down the top 4. As Aston Martin team principal Mike Crack said late last year, "I think everyone will be full steam on 25 at the moment, because there are also some restrictions on 26. But then quickly, depending on what the pecking order will be and what the gaps will be, you'll have to make a choice. Can I close this gap, or will others close the gap to me? Can I afford to go racing with what I have and focus on 26? I cannot answer the question now. We have to be objective and see month on month where we are. Considering Aston Martin's abysmal form over the final 10 races, when they were outscored by Haas and Alpine, it seems unlikely that Mike's team will have to worry about closing the gap to the others. They'll turn all their attention to 2026. For the front 4 though, it is a much more challenging game. While any money and time spent on the 2025 car won't translate to 2026, when there are championships on the line, you can't just ignore a season. For McLaren, Ferrari, Red Bull, and maybe even Mercedes, the stick or twist decision is almost impossible to make. I certainly wouldn't want to be in the position of any of the team bosses on those 4 teams. If they aren't competing for podiums over the opening 5 races, then maybe the decision becomes easier. If it's obvious that only heavy investment into the current season could result in success, then you can make the call to turn the factory's attention to 2026. But if you're in the mixer for podium finishes early on in a season, how do you decide where to invest? If you spend too much trying to take a championship in 2025, then you'll destroy your chances of competing in 2026. Spend too much on 2026, and you might be throwing away a championship title. What do you do if you're Fred Vasseur? Ferrari haven't won a championship since 2008. Considering how strongly they ended 2024, they should be fighting for race wins from race 1 this year. Surely Ferrari have to go for a championship of some sort this season. But if they do, will the lost development time on the new regulations cost them? And how long will that disadvantage last for? Let's say they invest heavily into 2025 and win the Constructors' Championship. Not only have they spent all that testing time in 2025 on the old regulations, but they'll also have the least testing time of all the teams for the first half of 2026. It is a double blow to their testing capabilities. Is that worth a Constructors' Championship to the Scuderia? Like I said, I wouldn't want to be the one making that decision. But what about you? What would you do if you were in that position? Go for broke in 2025 and risk tumbling down the pecking order in 2026? Or write off 2025 and go for glory in the new regulations? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and until next time, drive safe and bye for now.